Hello and good morning. It's a beautiful Friday here. I have a long weekend, so I decided why not sit and make a couple of videos on topics that I usually find hard, and I've been trying to study them for the last couple of days, and I think I've understood them to a moderate level, and I just wanted to explain them to you here. The first topic which we're going to be talking about today is the topic which figures in the written blueprint but is not there in the lab and might or might not be asked in the OEQ sections. That's L2TP, or the layer 2 tunneling protocol. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm not going to be spending a lot of time writing up uh, slides and spending time in that. What I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be going through some Cisco documents and explain how it happens to you through the video so that maybe you can understand it a little better. And I want this video to serve as a guide for anyone who is going to be sitting their CCIE lab exam. And you just have to go through this, and I just want this video to be an all-in-all video for knowing how L2TP works and to be able to effectively answer the OEQs if any questions come regarding L2TP. So let's get started. All right. I have a Cisco Docs80 page opened, and let's just quickly go through what L2TP consists of. Well, L2TP has basically three components to it, and they're pretty simple if you figure out what they do. The three components are the first and the foremost, the user PC. This is the dude which is trying to connect to the LNS and create an L2TP session or create a PPP session with the LAC. The next server is the LAC, which is the L2TP access concentrator. What this does is this sits out there in the PSTN network and it accepts PPP requests coming in from the user PCs. What this is basically like a gateway between the user and the LNS or the L2TP network server. LNS, which is the L2TP network server. What the LNS does is it acts as the terminating point for all the L2TP sessions coming in from various LACs, and LNS contains it's the network. It's basically a router or a device which acts as the terminating point for an L2TP session. So the topology will be something like this. You have an LAC here, and you have an LNS, and you have a private network behind this. Now, the LAC is connected to the POTS system, the plain old telephone system, and you have the user PC. Well, that's my sad representation of a laptop, so forgive that. The POTS is connected to the LAC, and the LAC is in turn connected to the LNS via the internet. Now, when the user wants to establish a PPP session with the private network, it can't do that because it's on a completely different network. So what it needs to do is it needs to first establish a PPP session over to the LAC, and the LAC will in turn establish an L2TP tunnel between itself and the LNS, and it'll tunnel all the PPP traffic to the LNS, which then decapsulates that and passes that PPP traffic over to the private network and reverse. So through this, what we can achieve is the user is the user process is transparent to all of this L2TP tunnel establishment, all the user sees is it's establishing a PPP call to the LAC, and now it's magically able to establish a connection to the private network. So I hope this is clear. So all we're going to be doing from the user is dialing out to the LAC, and we're going to be passing our PPP credentials. Again, in PPP, you can pass credentials either through PAP, CHAP, or various others like MS CHAP or whatever. There's lots of other stuff. But the user log creates an PPP session between the user and the LAC, sends its credentials using PAP, CHAP, or MS CHAP or whatever. The LAC in turn authenticates the user and figures out what LNS should be used to establish the L2TP session. See, the LAC now has authenticated the user, but now the LAC has to set up the L2TP tunnel between itself and an LNS. How will the LAC know which LNS to contact? There might be 2-3 LNSs. LNS 2. There might be LNS 3. How does LAC know which LNS to contact? Well, that can be identified from the username which the user provides when it's trying to connect through PPP. I'll explain that in more detail in the upcoming slides. So I hope this is clear. Now this is clear. Let's jump right in to the documentation, and I'll be walking through a detailed diagram, and I'll be telling you how the whole L2TP connection setup works. All right, we're here in one of the documentation pages, and I'll be giving you this the links for this later on. I'll put it in the show notes. So here we have a simple topology here, and we have, as we have identified, we have the LAC. We also have the LNS, and this is the private network that I was talking to you about earlier. Private. I should learn to spell first. Private network, which we were talking about earlier. So this is our user PC, and a user PC here wants to talk to the private network, and there should be a communication between those two. How does that happen? Well, it happens in two phases. One is it establishes a PPP connection with the LAC initially. The LAC in turn establishes an L2TP connection, and this PPP session is tunneled from the LAC to the LNS, and it gets decapsulated here, and then the PPP traffic makes its way to the private network. Well, now that's clear. Let's get into the details. First, what the user does is, the user basically, I think he has a Microsoft client, a PPP client, and the user dials out and connects to the LAC point of presence using a username of, say, the user's name is TACAC, and the user wants to connect to the LNS, say this is at IP 1.2.3.4. Now the user wants to connect to LNS 1.2.3.4, and it's trying to establish a PPP connection to the LAC. So what the user does is, the user specifies his username, and it also specifies the group name which it wants to connect to. Now, when the user passes this as the username to the LAC, what the LAC does is